Okay, good evening, everyone. I'd like to call to order regular meeting of council Tuesday, September 3rd, 2019. Before the approval of the agenda, I just wanted to recognize that we had received a certificate of appreciation as sponsor for the TR Cares golf tournament again. I was able to attend with Councillor Kirby and had a great time, and they did a fantastic job. Approval of the agenda. Recommendation, please. Councillor Norbury.
That the Tuesday, September 3rd, 2019 regular council meeting agenda be approved as presented.
Seconder. Councillor Lehman. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Adoption of the minutes. August 12th, 2019 regular council meeting minutes. Recommendation, please. Councillor Kirby.
That the Monday, August 12th, 2019 regular council meeting minutes be adopted as presented.
Seconder. Councillor Majinski. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Any business arising from the minutes, council? Staff? No. Okay, moving on to delegations and petitions. 5.1, Dr. Charles Helm, Health and Geoparks. Dr. Helm to present to council on his Health and Geoparks project. Welcome.
Thank you, Your Worship. I have a short PowerPoint here, if I may take you through it. It's lots of slides, but as usual with me, it goes very quickly. I don't need to tell you who I am. You know about my disclosures anyway, between the health centre and the Geopark and the museum. And we're going to be talking about the Geopark. But I put this up because I just got this recently. That's the Google Earth image of Tumbler Ridge today. And managed to find this thing from the Prince George archives, and that's Tumbler Ridge in the late 40s, early 50s. And it just summarizes to me where we've come from nothing and how unique we are. And therefore, you know, are we celebrating this enough? Do we really have insight into what this means, and how can we use this to our maximum benefit? So I always use the example of the Emperor's Challenge. You all know it didn't quite look like that this year, I have to say. Anyway, you know, gone from something that people thought, well, it's a cute idea, but it won't really go anywhere, to the biggest off-road event in the province. Throw in things like the triathlon, flatbed loops, Grand Finder, what's going to happen soon with the Health Week and our wonderful community centre. And we've actually got something already that is pretty unique, and then we throw in the trails, which we all know are doing so well this year, and we celebrate how just about all of them are built with passion from volunteers, as you can see there. And, you know, building boardwalks, flying them in by helicopter, you know, volunteers working on these projects, creating something like that, happy volunteers at the end of the day, and then you take a group hike and they can't believe that in the middle of the wilderness is this boardwalk, or building steps and then taking hikers up the same thing, and finding people are just amazed that this is what's happened largely through the work of volunteers over the last 20 years. And if we look at Canusia Falls, it's still our most popular attraction. I was there on the weekend, parking lot overflowing. But the trails that we built there, basically we had to reopen them because BC Parks had closed them. We got permission. We could take down the signs saying viewpoints closed, and we could put up our own signs. And now we've got these world-class trails at a world-class destination. So it's just another example of the success we have. This just speaks to the First Nations and how some of the things that we've discovered are of great interest to First Nations, and how closely in this project I'm trying to work with First Nations. And then there's our universal access projects, which you know about at Bullmoose Marshes and at the Lost Haven Cavern, which is therefore ready for the trail rider, which is this beautiful thing we got last year through Northern Health. And it just takes things to a whole different level because we can get anybody anywhere if we choose. So there's a lot of good stuff that's happened already, and trying to make our health centre more attractive through the outside windows. And then there was the 3D1P, and my single biggest regret this year is that none of you could attend 3D1P. I know you were all away elsewhere, but it was just an amazing event. And just these two photographs here show you how it was a combination of really good academic stuff, but showing people the mountain biking trails and the creeks and the canyons and the waterfalls and everything else. And the donkey was there, and we had our musicians playing, and it was just, you can see the pig there in the center left. It was just an amazing event, and people said this is the finest conference that they've ever been to, the most family oriented they've ever been to. So it shows what a niche we can have here. So if we take all that stuff and then we say, here we are in 2016, this was our team that went to Torquay in England for the UNESCO Geoparks conference. And UNESCO said the theme for the conference is health and well-being in global geopark communities. This was their theme. There were more than 150 presentations, 6 were on the main theme. This is really bad from their perspective, because they were thinking the majority of presentations would be on the main theme. I was one of the 6. So they were actually very disappointed. There I am giving my presentation. But it's obvious to me, because they chose that theme, that health and well-being is important to UNESCO. What we've got here with the combination of the geological and the medical expertise is unusual. It's maybe globally unique. There may be no other place in the world with our combination of skills. So we're uniquely placed to lead in this. And what we want to do is Tumbler Ridge to become a model community at a world level as a destination for healthy living, a global level. So what the project is, we've got these 4 modules, and they interlock, as you can see, but there's nothing fancy. It's simple stuff: moving well, connecting well with the environment, eating well, and bringing those things together to living well. It's very simple, but we're using the Geopark as the model to create this. Very simply, we want to make Tumbler Ridge the healthy lifestyle capital, certainly of northern BC, and an example to the world. Conferences is one example. We're now working on Move the North, which is the Northern BC conference on health, on exercise. Well, they've had it previously in Prince George. It doesn't make sense. I'm talking to them. Put everyone on the bus, bring them here, and we'll give them the equivalent of 3D1P, and they'll never forget it. We're looking at partnering with these provincial organizations that are saying if we get this thing going, then they want us on their boards and things like that. Very influential groups in the province. And so basically these 4 modules, they look at evolutionary biology. That's how we make it Geopark centered. There's a lot of First Nations wisdom in these modules, and we combine it with healthy physical activities on the trails in the community center, whatever. So phase 1 would simply be to convert these modules into brochures, websites, etc., and promoting the idea of us as this destination. Phase 2 is to export this to the other geoparks in Canada, and then to export this to all 140 global geoparks in the world. Portugal is doing something similar, so we kind of will be working with them. But people normally say, think global, act local. We say, think local, act global. We kind of turn that one around. So far, 146 hours on the modules. I don't need to go through this in detail, but we've had lots and lots of input from all sorts of people giving us the input. We've had good letters of support, including from yourselves. Canadian Commission for UNESCO have actually said if we get this, then we must approach them about translating into all sorts of other languages. So that's how the degree to which our Canadian Commission is on board for this. And they've just given us some really nice quotes. This is from the head of Global Geoparks Network and the vice head, just saying how they've enjoyed the modules and how it's a great geopark, great idea, got to make it happen. So we got really good support from UNESCO. I did a webinar for the BC Alliance for Healthy Living about 6 weeks ago. Somehow we got the biggest number of participants ever and the largest number of questions ever in that webinar. So we obviously engaged with people. And there were some really good comments afterwards, saying Tumbler Ridge has got world stage leadership, a small rural community making a huge impact. If they can, we all can. Things like that. We just got really good feedback from them. So essentially, there's a problem there. So I think of it as we're trying to get onto the Titanic, our famous hike here. We want to get to the prow of the Titanic, but we've got these things like the Armada in the way. We've got to get through these things or over these things. And so the problem is this is so unusual, and what we're trying to do here is so innovative that it's hard to get funding for it. It's breaking new ground. People don't understand that when you approach them. So if you're a funding agency and you've got 25 applications for a certain amount of cash, you're going to go with the ones that fit your criteria perfectly. And something like this, you'll just turf it right away because it's different, it's unique, it's innovative, but it's not for us because it doesn't fit our criteria. So as an example, we went to Northern Health, applied for 5,000 for the Imagine grant, and they said, a great idea, but it's all about geology, there's not enough health. We then went to Canadian Geological Foundation, applied for 8,000, and it was declined. They said it's too much health, not enough geology. So you can't win because it's this. We're bringing the two together to try and create something completely unique. The South Peace Division of Family Practice that I'm part of, they supported 3D. They were wonderful, but they actually, through their constitution, whatever, they cannot support this much as they would like to. So what I'm saying is that for as little as 5,000 to 10,000, we could create these websites, get this project off the ground, and basically try and get to the prow of the Titanic. For me, it's like the Empress Challenge or the Geopark. In the very beginning, when we introduced these ideas, people said, "Well, it sounds good, but you'll never get it right. It's too big, it's too ambitious." And look at where we are now with these things. So for me, this is like the logical next step, the logical conclusion. And I actually think we could influence the economic development, the nature of the community. As you can just imagine all the spin-offs that could happen if we are recognized as the healthy lifestyle capital of the North, and we've got a global influence. Whether it's things through the college or bringing extra courses, whatever. There are all sorts of things that would be spin-off benefits. So I actually don't think this is just like a cool idea, even though it is. But I think it's got economic benefit for Tumbler Ridge. I would be doing this completely as a volunteer. I've got the time now that I'm semi-retired, and I think we could do something really cool for Tumbler Ridge with a relatively small initial infusion. So I wanted to ask if there was any appetite for support from council, or if not, if there are ideas that you might have for other places I could go to, because I'm kind of tried 3 times in 3 different places, and for different reasons, people couldn't support it. So I'm at a frustrated phase where I know how good this is, but it's been difficult to get funding.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for your presentation. Council, any questions? Councilor Norbury.
I'll make a comment, and thank you for coming in, Dr. Helm. It sounds like a great idea. You point out that you're hitting on you've been turned down because it's too geological, too much into health. But we're also looking at promoting Tumbler Ridge through tourism as well. So it hits on multiple angles for us, and I think a lot of these are important issues for us to continue to highlight in our community. I think it's a great idea.
Yeah, I agree, Councilor Norbury. I do think it's a great idea. I think creating Tumbler Ridge as a destination is really the evolution of our tourism industry. I'm really happy to hear the success you had with the 3D conference. Unfortunately, our schedules didn't mix well, but looking forward to next year. I certainly would support this 100%. Have you spoken with anyone with the community forest by chance?
Haven't approached it. Approaching community forest for other ideas, but I haven't spoken to them about this one in particular.
Okay. Council, anything else? Is this a time-sensitive thing, Doctor?
No, I'm leaving on Thursday for my field season in South Africa. I'll be back in early December. I wouldn't be doing it. I wouldn't be starting it. It would be a winter project for me from December onwards.
So, Mr. Wall, when is our grant and aid deadline?
The application deadline is the first week in January, and then you usually don't make decisions until March.
Okay. Well, we'll definitely keep it in the back of our minds here, or the front of our minds, I guess. And we'll get back to you as soon as we can. Thank you for coming in.
Good, thank you.
Okay, 5.2, Dr. Andrew Cheng, temporary use permit. Dr. Cheng, present to council on his temporary use permit for his dentistry business. Welcome, Doctor.
Thank you, Your Worship. Anyways, I was informed by Dustin that of course my permit has expired, and I had requested a renewal of that permit for another 5 years. reason is mainly that I felt at the time, and I still do, that I'm better off in the house than anywhere else locally. I did look into purchasing a space, the one beside tech and the pharmacy. It was okay, except there's a I was kind of concerned about the cost of renovation, taking away all that, all the flooring and all the walls, and that it might have it's something that would have cost me, and on top of buying the space, which it was, I didn't really have all that financing at the time, anyways. But if I did go ahead with that space and did some renovation, leaseholds, it would have been a financial disaster for me. I wouldn't be able to operate without raising my fees or doing something like. But at any rate, my business model would not have allowed for that. Right now, I have new staff. The previous office manager that I had, she's no longer. She's working in the pool now full time, which is fantastic. However, my new staff, she's fantastic as well, and we're making a comeback. My hygienist is on mat leave, so we're a little short of staff, and I'm trying to recruit extra staff. In the foreseeable future, I expect things to be better than it was a few years back. I had trouble with staying afloat a few years ago. It wasn't good, but I managed to keep things going, and for me, there's the extra added cost of flying in, having a vehicle at the Fort St. John Airport. I fly in every week or every second week, and so it's an expense. And I figured, well, if another mine came to town, and there was a big influx of population, it would certainly justify me, trying to get additional financing to open a clinic. But in order to open a clinic now, the cost is in excess of $500,000 to set up just a little small clinic. I've done that before a few times in my career. I've been practicing dentistry since 1989, and I've opened 3 practices in my lifetime, and some didn't do very well because the overhead was just in Vancouver at the time, Vancouver and Squamish, and even Surrey I tried, but it just to run a business as a dentist is hard. I'd much rather just associate, to tell the truth. But Tumbler Ridge is a nice town. I've grown very fond of Tumbler Ridge, and in fact, I was telling Dr. Helm today, I would love to be here for another 5-10 years. But once I'm retired, I'm 56 this year. Once I retire, there has to be a change of ownership, let's just say, and it would be difficult for a young person to come into town, to let's say buy a practice, and then or just keep things going. The town doesn't grow in excess of 2,000 people. My patient base only maybe 300.
300.
It's not very much. That's active patients. So to build a practice for $500,000 for 300 people, it's not doable. In Vancouver, I associate for a mall practice 3,000 patients. That's keeps keep things going. So just the perspective is in this town, a little practice, a little clinic in the house makes sense. Unless there's some sort of help from let's say Northern Health to maybe because there's a potential space at the health clinic where the physiotherapist used to be. If there's some sort of help from them to leasehold improvements, at least there's a chance that I could move to here. But I know the issue previously was is that I'm in the house. I'm not paying the commercial property tax, and I've spoken to a colleague of mine, and the suggestion was to just make up the difference. I'm gladly come up with the difference. I pay my property taxes included in my mortgage. I would certainly be open to upping that to the district, whatever that difference is, and to make everybody happy. But right now, I don't want to move. I want to have a 5-year extension so that I can have an option if the town does grow tremendously, and if I get a decent space and it's financially feasible, I would do it. But right now, I would like to have an extension for another 5 years, so it gives me a chance to keep the practice going and build the staff and maybe hire another hygienist if that's possible, and make the practice much more sound footing before I retire in 10 years. So this is that's my case.
Thank you for coming in, Doctor. I appreciate it. I think it's important for all council to understand where you are at, and where your business is at. And I know I certainly appreciate your practice being in town, and I know quite a few other people in town do as well. And it was very welcoming when you decided to come here. Council, any questions? Councillor Howe?
Yeah, thanks for coming in. You do my teeth all the time. I'm not a big fan of you up there, but glad to see you in front of us. You've answered some questions that I had right off the get-go here. One of the comments you made was 300 patients, and it makes sense for a small town. That's exactly the reason why I wanted you to come in here. I wanted you to come in and explain to us why you can't take the next step. And that to me is basically the finances are not, the economics are not there to make it happen. My concern with dentistry in Tumbler Ridge is that if we should ever have an influx of people to come to Tumbler Ridge, it's going to be very hard for us to get an additional dentist to come to Tumbler Ridge who will set up a practice downtown when there's somebody that has one based out of the home. But the chances of that happening are very slim in my mind. And it's interesting that you would mention locations in Northern Health. I had a conversation with Charles Helm, actually, and I think Charles told me at one point there has been 5 different locations within our clinic that has had dental operations in it. They've moved it around 5 different areas in there. And that's something that's interesting to me. I sit on the health board committee that we have here, and I may be able to talk to Northern Health if there's any appetite for doing something like that.
Sure.
But to me, my thing is can we get to the point where we say this is no longer a temporary permit? If we're not going to ever think about doing this downtown, by the business case you have, nobody has the crystal ball to say that the next mine is going to go, and is that going to give you enough people to do it anyways? But so to me, my thing is do we need to continue to call it a temporary practice? And your suggestion about possibly leveling the taxes to a commercial tax rate, we had a bit of a scenario there. Mr. Wall provided us of what the difference between if we were charging you commercial taxes as compared to residential taxes, and it was minimal. If I remember correctly, it was a couple $100 a year difference. It was minimal, not what I thought it would be for sure. So I mean, I don't think that's even the time that it would take staff to put that together is not worth the money that we would get out of it. So that's my comments on it. So.
Yep, thank you. Dr. Cheng, what you said 300 patients currently. What would be your capacity?
Oh, my capacity. Well, I worked only 3 days last month. Usually, in any given month, I work 4 to 8 days. I fly in on a Monday night, work Tuesday, and leave Thursday or Friday. Thursday night. So I work 3 or 4 days a week, 2 weeks a month. Now in the fall, I plan to, like this month, I'm working every week. I'm flying Monday night. I leave Thursday or Friday morning, but there'll be a lot of downtime. So, however, I have a very strong lead for an associate. He's about my experience level, and he's from Ontario. He wants to try out the practice as a locum in October. So I said, okay, fine. I'd rather, I'll give him a chance to work. And if he's suitable and he's compatible with my staff, great, I'll give him an associateship. He can live in Tumbler Ridge full time, which is what he really wants to be full time. I don't mind coming up twice a month, flying up and doing some things he doesn't do. But the capacity, I think the house, in terms of capacity, we have three dental operatories, and I've just ordered a new compressor vacuum unit, and so one of my units are, 7 years old. It's not working well. So if I have 3 rooms going at once, it's 1 hygienist and 2 dentists. That's the capacity. Instead of me running around, we have 3 rooms that can be functional all the time. And in terms of days, I mean, if we can book patients on a Saturday, we tried before. We could have the place open 24 days a month. I think, Sundays off. It's not a problem. 5-6 days a week is possible. That's capacity. So right now I'm at 1/3 capacity.
Okay. Councillor Norbury?
Yes. Thank you for coming in, Dr. Cheng. I hear a lot of these things that you're saying and how you're flying up 2 to 3 times a month to service our community. And in a community where we struggle with medical services, I'm very glad to see that someone's willing to take the extra effort to fly up from Vancouver to service our community when we're fighting for more medical services. And I think it's important to highlight that you're doing this at great expense to help our community. And thank you for that.
Yeah, and just toying with this idea of temporary use permit, I thought possibly if this was going to be the best case scenario, maybe we should look at possibly rezoning that house. That would take care of the temporary use permit area. But no, I do appreciate you coming in and giving us your perspective on the practice. And council, any other comment or questions? Councillor Helm?
So just a comment to council that we need to consider too, like if we were to rezone that, is that then, is that a dental office that then he can then sell to, somebody else coming in and when he retires? I mean, that to me sounds like a better line of progression for us than somebody coming in to get a temporary permit that he's, continuing on to the next person, right? So to me, I mean, we still need the continuation when he leaves. So is that to me, that's a better selling feature if I was a dentist coming in, that is already taken care of and I know I can legally operate the practice in that area.
Yeah.
So I think that's a great idea that we should probably head down that road.
Yeah, and I
Get
think,
rid of the temporary thing and just call it, this is our permanent dental office, right? So.
yeah, and I mean, you've done a lot of improvements to that at home. I've been in it myself as well, and you're set up quite well in there. So, yeah. Okay, thank you very much for coming in.
Thank you.
5.3 Tumbler Ridge Mountain Bike Association update. Members of the board to present to council to provide an update on TRMBA projects. Welcome.
Thank you, Cam.
All right, so we just wanted to start off by saying thank you to Mayor and Council for hosting us again. So we just wanted to give you an update today on what we've been doing since we last went with you. We have an update on 7 different project elements. So to say we've been busy is a little bit of an understatement. And I'll let Steve get started on talking about our Trail Master Plan project.
Excellent, thank you. So the Trail Master Plan is, of course, the big document that we're working on putting together at the moment. We've got Canadian Ramp Company coming to town very shortly. They're a company that council helped connect us with, as a matter of fact. And the major takeaway here is that the Trail Master Plan they're going to provide to us is going to be a 2D and 3D concept. And it's going to assist us with securing tenure for future trails, as well as just fundraising. Grant applications go a whole lot smoother when you've got a wonderful document like this standing behind your plans. So it's very much our first step for our larger vision. And we, of course, want to thank the district for funding this project. We wanted to let you know that we're using your funds.
From the pump track project perspective, following up from FCM, the TRMBA was introduced to the Canadian Ram Company, and we want to thank Councillor Kirkauka and Councillor Kirby for facilitating that joining together. Our board has actually elected to pursue a larger scale project of the fully paved pump track. There were a few reasonings behind that, and as far as sort of lower maintenance cost year over year, multi-use, so the ability to have scooters, rollerblades, unicycles, any wheeled apparatus you really want to give a go at, and the ability to host events and attract external sponsorship, and really look at this as a larger economic development opportunity for Tumbler Ridge and bringing in perhaps some of those larger scale competitions in the future. Presently, the Tumbler Ridge Mountain Bike Association is working on applying for and securing additional funding. The original project budget of $80,000 with $30,000 coming from the community forest and $50,000 coming from NDIT is still in place. We've spoken with those funders and they're willing to support us through the increased scale of the project. However, that increased scale does come with increased cost. And so the estimate that we have presently for that increased cost is around $250,000 to complete the project. We're going to do our best over the winter to make sure we're fundraising and getting as much of that money as possible. But in the event we are unsuccessful, we are potentially going to be looking to council for a grant and aid process to sort of fill that gap. If that's not successful, then we'll look at potentially decreasing the scope of the project again and then building it in incremented phases over time. In terms of location, as part of that trail master plan that Steve sort of talked about there, they're going to give us a few potential locations that we could look at to have this that will work really well with the planned trails overall. So integrating it as sort of one whole vision.
So moving on from pump tracks to insurance, it's a great benefit that we offer to our membership is mountain bike insurance. So we acquire this from the International Mountain Bike Association, and it's an absolutely tremendous value. We've got an insurance specialist on our board who couldn't believe that we pay so little for what it covers. It would be at least 3 times the price anywhere else. So again, I'm going to thank you for funding 3 years of our insurance, and happily inform you that we feel we've spent that money really responsibly.
I'd also like to say that our website project is moving along very nicely. It was funded in part by Northern Development Initiative Trust, and then the other part was covered by the TRMBA. But the part that was covered by the TRMBA all came from local donations. And so we want to take this opportunity to really thank the community for the outpouring of support that we've had so far. It's been a tremendous help to us and has really moved this along for us. And so the website should be ready in the next couple of weeks, and we'll be certain to keep you up to date as to when that launches and send the link around for sure.
So tenure is, of course, one of the major items on our to-do list before we can accomplish our major project of putting trails on the ridge one day. And Rec Sites and Trails has been a great partner for us. They're admittedly understaffed at the moment. It's basically just Emily. But she's coming to town in just a couple days to introduce her new staff member who started just today. And she is, I have no problem telling you, she is a big fan of us because we have been working through the process correctly, getting approvals beforehand, and it's shocked them to some extent because nobody seems to do that. Everybody just builds stuff and then gets tenure afterwards, which is absolutely not what you're supposed to do. So they're quite keen to see that tenure secured, and they've, at this point, we've got, it's looking good. I'll put it that way. But there's, of course, it's a process, and expect that we'll get that done sometime this year. Yeah.
From the trail development perspective, the TRMBA jointly with the district has put in an application to British Columbia Rural Dividend for $500,000 for trail development. That will facilitate the development of 3 trails at a roughly $150,000 apiece, with around a $50,000 construction contingency budget. That will involve 1 uphill trail to get riders up onto the ridge, and then 2 other downhill trails to bring them back down. Those trails will be constructed as per the record or the trails master plan that we're getting from the Canadian Ramp Company. And of course, as Steve sort of mentioned, all of that trail development is pending that 10-year approval with Rec Sites and Trails BC, but we're fairly optimistic in the stages of the process right now. On top of that, it's not just the large scale trails. We're currently mapping the existing infrastructure in Tumbler Ridge and around the area with the WNS approval and support to upload onto the Trail Forks application, which lets different tourists and people know coming to Tumbler Ridge that we do have infrastructure here for them to ride. I do want to give a brief shout out for that one to Jane because she's been riding a whole heck of a lot all around town, finding trails, and we've been lucky enough to upload them and get a base level infrastructure there. So the whole Tumbler Ridge trail is on there. Murray Canyon Overlook is uploaded, along with some of the other joint trails that connect those in between. Yeah.
So just some general updates. We've got an AGM coming up. I hope everybody can make it out. We're going to have a meet and greet afterwards just to help engage the community and get the word out on what we're doing. And this Friday, we've got a group ride coming up. Membership sign-ups at 6:30, and then we're going to ride around out by the Ball Diamonds at 7. Should be a lot of fun. Bring the kids. And then I'm not sure why we have a stakeholder engagement meeting on the 10th, right? Is that on the next slide? Is that yours? Am I stealing?
No.
So we also have a meeting coming up on the 10th. Rec Sites and Trails is coming to town again for that one, which we're really thrilled. And of course, we've got some stakeholders from within the community for that one as well.
Any questions?
Thank you very much for coming in. Council, any comment or questions? Councillor Howell?
Is the pump track an additional 250,000 on top of the 80, or?
No, that's 250,000 including the 80. Okay. So 170 additional.
Okay.
Councillor Lehman?
Thank you, Your Worship. If this is going to be Red Bull certified, why don't you call them up and tell them there's a good chance to get in on the ground floor and do some advertising, sell them some space.
So that the large-scale external sponsorship is something that we're looking at, and we're going to be contacting a lot of different companies, organizations, different mountain biking groups, and see how much funding we can get over the winter. And hopefully we come to council in January and don't have to ask you for any money, and just tell you that everything's moving along smoothly.
No, I just want to say I'm very, very impressed with your organization. Like you've been told before, you guys are doing everything, and girls, sorry, that you're doing everything the right way. You're following the right steps. You're not taking any shortcuts. And this is going to be an incredible addition to the community. Not only for our community members, but also for the tourists coming to town as well. Councillor Howell?
Just one other thing. What's the idea for the pump track? Have you guys come up with any locations yet? I know they're still throwing some ideas around, or are you getting narrowed in on something here, or what?
We've definitely shortlisted a few. We want to bring council a good list with good reasoning behind each one, and really be transparent about these are the pros for these sites, these are the cons for these sites, because it's at the end of the day, it's your land that we're hoping to use. And I personally am very much in favor of doing it paved, simply because we're paying for it now and we won't have to pay as much later. The maintenance of a paved track is so much lower than a dirt track. It's almost amazing that people even bother with dirt tracks when you consider the long-term cost of ownership. But in terms of picking a lot, it's something we should be bringing to you the next time you see us.
Okay. The tenure, is that just for the ridge trails, the new ones?
Yeah.
And what's the thinking in regards to the safety with those ridge trails and the highway? Because that's could pose a problem.
Yeah, it's definitely something we're looking to engage when the Canadian Ramp Company is up here. We're looking to engage them in finding a way to make sure that things flow and things are safe and that we've got adequate signage, crossings, whatever is required from both the Ministry of Transportation side and just a general safety side, right? Because at the end of the day, we want these trails to be usable by the entire community, and that means having kids being able to cross and get over there and do things. So we're only going to do things if they're safe, and we're really trying to, on top of that, engage BC Ambulance, Search and Rescue, and the fire department as well in sort of the larger scale planning, making sure that we have adequate emergency response precautions in place.
Yeah, that's my really only concern, is having a downhill trail on that ridge. But then the highway is right there, right? So, yeah, glad it's being thought about. Any other comment or questions, council? Thank you very much for coming in for the.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to consent agenda. We should adopt all of this as information, and then if anyone would like to bring it up for discussion, we can make a motion for discussion afterwards. So, recommendation, please, on the consent agenda. Councillor Norbury.
That all items in the August 12th, 2019 consent agenda be adopted for information.
Seconder, Councillor Lehman. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Would anyone like to bring anything up for discussion? I'd like to make a motion to bring up item 6.10 for discussion, Northern BC Tourism Summit. Get a seconder, Councillor Norbury, thank you. So, I think this is an important event to attend. Tumbler Ridge is definitely on the forefront as far as tourism goes. Our exposure over the last year has taken a significant jump, and I think this is an important event to support that tourism throughout the north here. So I'd like to make a motion. The council approves travel costs for mayor and or councillor to attend the Northern BC Tourism Summit 2019 and to sponsor at a cascade level. That is on page 42. Can I get a seconder? Councillor Majinski. Any comment or discussion? Councillor Majinski.
Thank you, Mayor Bertrand. Did you have a councillor in mind?
No. Councillor Kirby, did you attend last year's? Councillor Kirby.
Thank you, Your Worship. No, it was election time last year, so I did not attend. But I have attended many in the past.
And you found value?
Yep, absolutely. If, I don't know if there's any, I don't think there's anybody attending from staff or the Geopark at this point. So I think it would be good for a mayor and councillor to attend.
Yeah, and I think at that cascade sponsorship level, we have, now I'm following up on this, but I don't know if they have a actual trade show or not. But at that sponsorship level, it says that we have a banner to put up, or can be put up. Pop-up banner for the duration of the summit. Recognition on summit signage, print materials, and website. It seems like the most value for the price of $750 sponsorship. Yeah, no, Councillor Majinski, I don't have a councillor in mind. Councillor Norbury?
I'm in support of your motion. I think it's an important event for us to go to as we're trying to promote our tourism sector.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Kirby?
Thank you, Your Worship. If Councillor Majinski is interested in going, and if he'd like to promote mountain biking at that conference, I would be okay to step back on that. I've been to many before. If Councillor Majinski would like to go.
Okay, yeah, we can discuss that later, sure. Any other comment? Councillor Majinski?
Thank you, Mayor Bertrand. Do we need to have a travel report in place for that then?
Travel report?
Yeah, for how much it's going to cost per individual, or do we have to have?
Oh,
This is
I wasn't planning on flying. It was Drive, I think.
It's in where's it located, sorry? It's in
Prince George.
Yeah, okay, so, okay.
Okay, call to question, all in favor? Carried, thank you. Any other topics for discussion in the consent agenda? Okay. Moving on to bylaws, 7.1. Permissive tax exemption bylaw number 681, 2019. A report from the Director of Finance dated September 3rd, 2019 to seek first 3 readings of the permissive tax exemption bylaw number 681, 2019. Recommendation, please. Councillor Lehman.
That council give first reading to District of Tumbler Ridge permissive tax exemption bylaw number 681, 2019.
Seconder. Councillor Majinski. Is any discussion? Councillor Howe.
So I'm uncomfortable with on page 52, 105, number 7, which is a lot owned by the district of Tumbler Ridge that is given to the Royal Canadian Legion, where all class assessments shall be exempt, where class 6 is not exempt. I still don't have a good understanding of what and what is not exempt with the Royal Canadian Legion. I was not aware that the district of Tumbler Ridge owned that lot. Apparently we do. So until I can have more clarity on that, I don't want to have that included in it until we can get some more just clarity on how the taxes there work. I understand there's an application out for change into their liquor license or something like that as well to allow all patrons in, and that you don't have to be members of that club. Just don't understand how that's working, and I am concerned that we may be giving an unfair advantage to one business over another.
Okay. Mr. Wall, are you able to explain the distinguishment between the 2 classes for the Legion?
So right now, the upstairs where the bar is located is a class 6, which is a business class. So they're taxed at business rates. The rest of the building and the land is a class 8 at recreation or nonprofit. So they'd be taxed at the recreation or nonprofit rate. If council passes this, there would be no tax applied to the rest of the building. So the only area they would be paying tax on is the upstairs business portion.
Councillor Howe.
So, and we own the lot too, is that correct?
Mr. Wall? Mr. Wall?
Yeah, we own the parking lot, we own the
And so how does that work? Do we lease them to build, like do they lease the land from us, or we just give it to them for use, or?
I'm not sure, Mr. Wall.
I don't think we own the bill, I have to take a look at that.
Okay. So again, it just seemed weird to me. I thought the Legion owned their own land. It was owned by the government is what I thought on it, but that's why I'm a little concerned. I just thought it was funny that we own the land, so. Because I think we have had lot boundaries and issues over there that we were concerned about in the past, that we're not actually, we know where the lot lines are, but it appears that the parking lot goes into a lot that's for sale in the district of Tumbler Ridge, and we didn't have that all sorted out. So it just strikes me as interesting that we should maybe hold off on that.
As far as your concern is with the tax difference between the upstairs and the downstairs?
Well, because we don't have a firm understanding if we own it or they own it or they lease it or we get it for free or however that works, until we have that understanding, I don't think we should include it in the permissive tax bylaw.
Okay.
Just because I don't know, it seems to me to be a little fuzzy. So until staff has time to investigate it and figure it out, maybe it's just look into it, just to make sure that it's good. That's all.
Okay. So if, Mr. Wall, if we were to hold off on item K there, how would we go about removing that from the bylaw and adding it back in later once we have more information?
You could go through your first 2 readings today and leave it there.
For more information about the Legion till later. Okay. That's reasonable. Yeah. Councillor Lehman?
Thank you, Mayor Burton. They are paying tax on the upstairs though, aren't they?
Correct.
Yes.
Councillor Norbury?
I'm having an issue with why we need to put this off. I mean, it sounds like they're paying their their taxes on the business portion, and the portion that's not business, we're giving them an exemption, just like all the other nonprofits and churches and so forth. So, to me, that doesn't sound fuzzy at all. It sounds pretty cut and dry. They're paying on what they should pay, and the rest we're keeping an even playing field with the other organizations in town, which are nonprofits, which the Legion is in a portion of their land.
Our land, I guess.
Sorry.
Yeah, I think the confusion might, or the information requested might be more pertinent on a lease situation rather than a tax situation. It seems like the tax structure is fair for the Legion operating at the moment. As far as the information about the land and the building and that, I think that would be more, my opinion, I think it would be more pertinent information on a lease discussion. For sure. Councillor Kirby?
Thank you, Mayor Bertrand. I'm just thinking if Councillor Howell is having a problem with their structure for memberships changing. I think the fact is that people were getting signed in regardless if they had a membership or not. And I don't think the amount of patrons using it is going to really change that much. I think it's just easier for them to kind of do business if that's the way.
That's what it seemed like.
That's, yeah, I don't have a problem with passing this today myself.
Okay. Councillor Howell?
So my concern is within fairness to other businesses in the community. So for instance, we lease Game On Eatzeria, the restaurant that they can sell beer at. We lease the golf course out to people. They pay for both of those leases, and they pay their taxes on the building for both of those areas. We own the land that the Legion sits on. Is there a lease there? Is there a lease in place? Is there any amount of money that's generated there? Half of the building is given for taxes, and half of it isn't. Like, to me, we didn't know that until tonight, right? Mr. Wall is unsure about it either. So, is it not pertinent of us to take the time to figure out what the structure is there before we pass on the bylaw? Like, just if staff is unsure of it, I don't think that we should move forward on it.
Councillor Norbury?
It sounds like we're looking at, I don't want to make assumptions, Councilor Howell, but it sounds like you're concerned about a lease agreement, whereas we're just talking about taxes at this point in time. Like the business, like they're on an even playing field, I feel, because they are paying their proper business taxes for the area that they're doing business. So I think in that term, they are on an equal playing field. And in terms of business, healthy competition, I think, is good for business.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but I do agree with Councillor Howell's concern about giving an uneven playing field. But in this sense, like I think we need to dive into that in the lease agreement rather than the taxes. It seems to me like they're on par for the taxes. Any other comments or questions? Okay, call to question on the first reading. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Recommendation 2. Councillor Kirby?
The council gives second reading to District of Tumbler Ridge Permissive Tax Exemption Bylaw number 681, 2019.
Seconder, Councillor Lehman. Any other discussion? Call to question, all in favor? Opposed? Carried, thank you. And Councillor Howell, did you want to make a motion to defer the third reading?
Yeah, doesn't look like that's the will of council, but yeah, that we defer to third reading, District of Permissive Tax Exemption Bylaw 681, 2019.
Seconder? I'll second it. Open for discussion. So I think the concerns by Councillor Howe are valid. I think clear understanding of the entire situation at the Legion would be helpful in this sense. Although we are just looking at property taxes, clear understanding of the entire property and business being run there would probably aid in us reading this third reading. So, call to question on the deferral. All in favor? Opposed? Fails. Okay. Recommendation number 3, please. Councillor Kirby.
The council give third reading to District of Tumbler Ridge Permissive Tax Exemption Bylaw number 681, 2019.
Seconder. Councillor Majinski. Any other discussion or comment? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. 7.2 Zoning Amendment Bylaw number 679, 2019. A report from the Director of Protective Services dated September 3rd, 2019 to seek third reading of the Zoning Amendment Bylaw. Recommendation, please. Councillor Norbury.
That the District of Tumbler Ridge zoning amendment bylaw number 679, 2019 be read for a third time.
Seconder. Councillor Majinski. Any comment or discussion? Councillor Helm.
Can I just get one more explanation on how this fencing is going to work? And I'm in particular talking about the lots from Kiskatna up to Nuso Crescent, I think it is, or over to
Wapiti area
Wapiti.
there,
Yeah.
up top.
Just like because there's not homes on that side, like where are we saying the lot, the fence can go to? It can go to where the fence was supposed to be if the house is constructed over there, but not beyond, not out to the sidewalk. Is that correct?
That's from what I understand it to be, Mr. Wall. Can you clarify?
That's correct. So there's two different options that can happen here. So let's say you've bought that amalgamated, I call them vertical properties that cut across. If you have a house on each side, because there's not an exact setback, you can put your fence at different areas. So if you have a house on each side that have their fence a little bit further, you can put your fence in line with their fence. And if not, your fence can only go to the maximum setback. So you will be as far back from the curb as allowable in the bylaw, which means any house that comes in won't be impeded by your fence. So they will have the most amount of variance when they build their houses.
And the existing fences are grandfathered now? Okay. Councillor Howell.
So what would that distance be? Like just 60 feet? Or is it?
7 meters? From the 7.5 meters?
Mr. Wall.
So the range that you can put the frontage of a home is between 7.5 meters and 12 meters. So that setback is where that fence would lie. So if there's homes on either side, that's where the fence would lie in equal distance to the homes beside it. If there was no homes on there, that would be the range that you could set your fence at.
So, okay.
When measured from the road on the back side.
Correct. Okay, thanks.
Gotcha. Okay. Any other comment, questions? Okay, call the question. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Okay, moving on to new business, 8.1, construction debris disposal. A report from the Director of Operations and Infrastructure dated September 3rd, 2019, to provide requested information about costs associated with disposing of construction and demolition debris and report to council. Mr. Wall, can you give a brief overview of this one, please?
Yeah, thank you. So this is something that council asked us to come back with. So it's fairly easy for us to get the construction disposal bins in. We have to build a retaining wall. That won't be too much of an issue, so that's not where the real decision comes in. The decision comes into council and what you want to do for cost recovery. And there's 3 different avenues you can go down. You can say we're not going to do any cost recovery, and that makes life fairly simple, but there's the risk that you're going to have people from out of town bringing in their stuff. So that's going to be could be a challenge because we have to pay. When we get the material in, we have to pay the regional district to take it out. You can go through waste scales. Waste scales is definitely going to be the most accurate way to go about it. The issue with waste scales is we don't know if we will ever recoup the cost of the waste scales. It depends how much material come in and the rate that you set it at. So it's one of those questions of, does it make sense to implement a cost recovery system which will never recover its cost? And the other way to do it is you do it by volume. The problem with volume is it's going to be eyeball. And there's going to be disputes, there's going to be arguments, there's going to be accusations of favoritism from an administrative point of view, and why my recommendation is not to go with the eyeball method, even if the scales may never recover their cost, is because of that. I don't see this being a smooth process if this is the way we go. You can imagine the amount of complaints we get about our bylaw enforcement. Wait till somebody thinks we've overcharged them 15% for their construction disposal. We had long discussions about how we could do it otherwise. Shingles are fairly easy. You could do shingles on a per home basis and you know this is what it's going to be, but when you get into other construction costs, I don't know how you can break it down. Well, it's a bathroom, then you're going to get people saying, well, this is a bathroom and it's clearly a living room and this is a living. So how you come up with those costs, we couldn't figure out how to get that. So it came down to those three methods, whether you want to do by volume, which is going to have to be a guesstimate, whether it's by a weigh scale, which may pay itself off, may not, or charge.
Okay, thank you very much. Recommendation, please. Okay, I'll put it forward.
Well, yeah, I'm just trying to.
That council forwards a recommendation to the 2020 budget discussions for installation of weight scales at the transfer station. Seconder, please. Councillor Lehman. Open for discussion. Councillor Norbury.
So the reason why I didn't put forth a recommendation is because I understand the importance of having weigh scales there for the construction aspects, because we definitely need construction bins, absolutely. Now, I understand that we do have concerns about, once the word is out, we have free construction waste bins, maybe people can save a bunch of money by hauling a massive amount of construction material to Tumbler Ridge. But realistically, the cost of hauling it out here probably would offset that, any potential savings they have. So I'm not sure how I feel about having this large costs, because we're definitely not going to look at a cost recovery, which is fine. We do that a lot. Yeah, that's just, we have a decision. Just iffy.
Councillor Lehman.
I think. I mean, thank you, Mayor Bertrand. I don't think there's any other option than going with scales, and I think it's probably going to be a long process to get paid back, but I think you have a chance of making at least some of the money back. And at the end, I mean, I guess you can always try and sell the scales if it comes to that. But I think if you're making 30 to 50,000 a year, it's going to take, well, I mean, with labor costs and that. But I don't know. It's going with any other method is just crazy, and you have to charge people.
Councillor Majinski.
Thank you, Mayor Bertrand. So we're talking about a drive-on weigh scale system, right? Wouldn't there be a cheaper alternative of having a large size scale by the dumping station that you can dump in from? So if you had just a platform for a 2,000 pound scale, have a bin on it, you fill that up, dump it in, so you're not having a $200,000 scale sitting there. You can have like a $50,000 scale that you can just fill up, say, okay, this is your charge, because how many people are going to be towing in more than 2,000 to 5,000 pounds of drywall or shingles? You know what I mean? So you don't need a tandem axle truck and gooseneck trailer and all that to be hauling in, and you don't need a 40-foot weight scale. So what if you just had a bin that had a large size scale on it?
That's definitely an option.
If we go that road, think of the different options.
Councillor Howe.
So, to me, the whole point of this is to help our residents of Tumbler Ridge. This is not to help major construction companies come in and do renovations in Tumbler Ridge and make money off the backs of the taxpayers. So to me, I think this could be quite easily done by pickup truck load or trailer load. You know, if you've got a dump trailer that's 16 feet or less, it is whatever. If we estimate that you could put 4 tons in that before your tires blow, that's what it's going to be for you. It's going to be 3 tons or 2 tons or whatever of cost. The reason I say that is that if we try to recover all the costs on this, people are just going to go dump it in the woods. So for us to put in whatever the cost of a scale is and then charge people for it, you're still going to lose a lot of that money out in the woods, plus our staff time and that type of stuff. To me, I think there's an easier solution. This is exactly what Mr. Wall, the example he used, is somebody's renovating the bathroom and they've got tile and drywall and flooring and whatever to go into this construction-based bin, and that is a resident of Tumbler Ridge improving their home. To me, I think there's a way that we can come up with a number for per pickup truck load. And if they come in with a half load, well, that's too bad. It's the price is what it is. And if the cost for us to disposal is $110 a ton, maybe a market at that. I think it could be done through a pickup truck load. And maybe it's not perfect cost recovery, but you're not going to lose a lot in the woods, and you don't have to fork out the big money to have a scale down at the dump.
That's going to be the tricky part. I agree with you. Is this is definitely an initiative for our taxpayers and residents here in town, but it's that balance of trying to cost recover and pushing people away if we try too hard. This is really an initiative to try and clean up our backcountry. There's way too much illegal dumping. But this is also something that I'm going to be bringing to the regional district, to their solid waste committee, to see if there's some sort of a partnership that we can work with them on. This is a new initiative, so there's many different options, but I think there's an opportunity for the regional district to partner up with us on this as well. Councillor Howe?
I don't know if shingles aren't allowed at our dump right now, but I have seen other industrial waste or residential waste, construction waste, disposed of at the dump for different times, which seems a little oddball to me that certain people are allowed to put drywall down there, certain people were not. It depends on what operator was down at the dump. And I thought that we operated a landfill down there. I thought we were able to get rid of certain things like drywall because it turns into, what is it, they call it clay or whatever it turns into. Gypsum, whatever. I thought there were things that we could get rid of, and like, I mean, I don't know, is there any flavor of us to be able to dispose of it here? I mean, we used to have a bit of a landfill. Can we not do that anymore?
That's something I'd have to bring up with the regional district to see if there is options there. I think the inconsistency with the dumping here in town has been warned by the regional district, I believe, that no construction waste to be in our bins. So the inconsistency definitely needs to be shored up to be in compliance. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm not so much talking about what's in the bins. I'm talking about, we have an area down there as you're coming in, and the district utilizes it. I mean, they stored scrap wood down there. They stored our asphalt. They store our broken concrete, things like that of that nature. And I have seen off to the side, drywall, tile, masonry, stuff along those lines. When the renovation was done for the hockey arena, where they were breaking up concrete and stuff there, all that trash and steel and stuff was dumped down there. Like, are we allowed to utilize that area, or how big of an area do we have?
Yeah, that's something I'm not really sure of, Mr. Wall. Do you know of that area as you're coming down to the dump on the left there, the dumping area? We've filled that a couple times now, leveled it off. What's our allowed usage there?
Thank you, Mr. All the Mayor and Council, currently it's not a landfill, but it is the repository, I guess, for clean fill. We have asphalt, concrete, and waste wood, obviously, trees. We don't have construction. We don't have conventional lumber or gypsum. Our regional district had allowed small amounts to go within our transfer bins. But most recently, when they discovered that a fair amount of construction waste was being deposited, they cut that practice. So that's where we are today. We do operate a burn pit down there where most of that wood is being burnt. We have no permit for that. It has been that way for many years, so I think the government's just turning a blind eye to it for now, but I would be surprised if they stopped that practice.
Okay, thank you very much. Any other comments, Council? Councilor Kirby?
Thank you, Mayor Bertrand. Can we get your recommendation read back, please?
Yes. So the council forwards a recommendation to the 2020 budget discussions for installation of weight scales at the transfer station. Councilor Kirby?
Thank you. So with that, we won't be putting in any permit costs or such, so this will be a kind of a trial, possibly till, or you've omitted that part, so,
Well, this would be basically to forward this to our budget discussions for 2020.
okay, thank you.
And then we can probably adjust at that time if we want to adjust. Any other comments or questions? Okay, call the question on the recommendation. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. 8.2, asphalt replacement policy. A report from the Director of Operations and Infrastructure dated September 3rd, 2019, to seek approval of a policy which will assist the district with the scheduling and financial information required to assist council with their long-term strategic and financial planning. Recommendation, please. Councillor Norbury?
So I'm looking to make an alternative to the recommendation that's been put forth. And after I make the recommendations, I'll present my
Is
case.
it one of these alternatives?
Yes.
Yes, okay.
So that, I'm gonna go 2 and 3. That the amount of funds be saved for each road be reduced to 80% of the total value, and that the amortization length be changed from 15 to 18 years.
Okay, seconder? Councillor Hall? Open for comment or question? Councillor Norbury?
So I had an interesting conversation with a gentleman in FCM. He was from somewhere on the island, and he talked about asset management, which I think this is what this is, right? We're looking at our assets and replacing it. He gave a great analogy of your assets are just like your car. Now, if we look at our asphalt replacement of the car, we put a bunch of money out, we bought a brand new car. Now, it makes sense that we put aside money every year when that car dies to replace it. Now, where the reason why I think that's a smart idea, yet I don't think we should put away the 100%, is that if we use household finances as an example, I'm concerned by putting away at the full percentage every year and having a 15-year amortization length, is that we will be set for purchasing our new asphalt or new car at the expense of our services that we do. So because once we start going down this asset management plan, our asset management at 100% will be $1.2 million per year, which
That's just for roads.
that's what I'm trying to get to, is that's just for our roads, that's not for our buildings, that's not for other infrastructure in our community. So I do think we should be saving for the future, but I'm concerned that at this level, at the level of 100%, we're going to be cutting into our services for our community. Infrastructure is incredibly important, and we need to save for the future, but not at the cost of our citizens and our residents. And I feel that this is a more amenable way of doing it.
Okay. Any other comments? Councillor Howell?
I can understand where Councillor Norbury's coming from. I think that setting up the reserve policy is kind of going along that lines. I think that we have a substantial amount of money in general reserves, and I think it's high time that we start putting that stuff away for asset management. And I think this is staff's opportunity to figure out where we are with everything, put a system in place, put money towards it. If we wanted to change the depreciation levels or amortization levels to 18 years, I have a similar concern that at 15 years we would just change the roads out. Who knows what the council of the day would do, especially if they have all the money. I also like the idea of 80% because to me it makes the people sitting in these seats 16, 17 years from now have to have a little more thought about it before they just spend money that we had saved for them, that they've got to put 20% up for it as well. So that side of it, I do like that the 80% idea there. It makes them make a more informed decision, but it's easier decision for them to make the 80%.
Absolutely, and this asset management of the roads, very well done, by the way. I think this is a progression to really bring us to fiscal management. Yeah, we have a good bank account right now, but is it allocated to anything? No. Do we know how much our buildings are going to cost to replace? No. This asset management program is being developed, but I think this is really a move in the right direction. And also setting the councils up in the future to have the necessary funds to be able to make these infrastructure improvements as well. One of the biggest tones around the province is the municipalities are not able to fund their infrastructure replacement or anything new. They just do not have the tax base to do it. We're in a different situation here. We have an opportunity to not only maintain and replace our infrastructure, but also possibly create new infrastructure. So it's definitely moving this asset management is definitely a move in the right direction, in my opinion. Any other comments, Councillor Norbury, then Councillor Hall?
Yeah, like, I had something in my mind, but Councillor Helm made a really good point about our reserves, and maybe we should be looking at using our not too much for money guy, I'm not gonna lie, but would it be more beneficial to use our reserves we put towards the amortization, or is it better off in investments that we can make money off it? So that's a little off topic, I'm sorry. So let's bring more into something else.
Okay, Councillor Hall.
So yeah, so that money doesn't go into a dummy account where it sits there and makes no interest. It is just allocated in a computer program that we have put this money aside, but our staff puts that money into bank accounts in areas where they can collect the most interest on it as a lump sum. It's just, it can be broke out to say we have theoretically put $1 million aside to buy a new fire truck, right? Like, or whatever, right? So that money is not sitting dormant, not making interest, if that's what your concern is. The only concern I have with Councillor Norbury's recommendation is I'm not sure that it includes the asphalt replacement reserve policy portion of it. So I think we're kind of beating around the same thing. I think that, you know, that the 2 points that he wanted to add in there, I don't see how they're alternatives to the recommendation as compared to could be added in with the recommendation.
Well, it would be lowering the depreciation, total depreciation recovery to 80%, plus adding 3 years of amortization links. So it would definitely decrease the yearly cost by increasing the years.
We're not doing the asphalt reserve policy, correct? Is that? Maybe I would need some clarity from Mr. Wall on that, to make sure we're not missing something here.
So this policy is just in creation, is that correct, Mr. Wall?
That's correct. This is in draft. So if you look at page 69, 68, 69. So what would change based on the recommendation on the floor from Councillor Norbury is the years until depreciated would increase by 3. So that'll decrease the yearly depreciation amount that comes at the bottom, that 1.2 million total. So if you were to go from 15 to 18 and as well only want to collect 80%, that should be about a 40% decrease. So instead of the 1.2 million, you'd be looking at 720,000 in your cost per year, because that 3 years extension will help increase, decrease that. And then that'll take care of both aspects of it. So it'll decrease the total amount that you'd be putting away in the bank from about 1.2 to $720,000 a year. But it is important to remember, by increasing it to from 15 to 18, you're not actually taking away any maintenance costs. So those will still be there. So it's a hope that those roads will make the last from 15 to 18.
Yeah, and also amortizing it over 15 years, once that 15 years is up, it's not necessarily a switch to turn on to replace the road. It's just saying that we're fully funded to replace that road. If that road can be patched or sealed and get another 4 or 5 years out of it, sure, but this is just ensuring that we are funded to replace it. Councillor Norbury.
And I think I understand what Councillor Howell was trying to say in that I didn't actually say we approved the asphalt replacement policy. I just said I took points out of it, and I think the concern, correct me if I'm wrong, Councillor Howell, is that without having that key phrase of the top part of the recommendation, we're not actually going forward with this policy.
Gotcha.
That's correct.
But these changes need to be made to the policy before we can approve the policy, right? Mr. Wall?
That's correct. If council passes the motion that's on the table right now, you'd then pass the asphalt replacement reserve policy. Or you could have it brought back to you and with a new payment.
Okay, Councillor Helm.
So just so, how much money do we normally collect in taxes per year? 50 million?
Our highest was about 16, and I would guess, looking into the crystal ball, we should probably be safe by saying 14 next year.
And does that include the money that we get from the gas tax and the fair share program? That's everything. Total revenue about 16 million.
I'd say so, safer around 14.
Okay. And to run the district right now is a little over 10.5 million, about 11 million.
8.5 to 9 for operational, and then you've got your grant and aid, which is usually around $1 million. So we do end up around 9.5 to 10.5. It'll change if you factor in special projects, then you're getting into 11.5.
Yeah, and just before we even got into special projects, I mean, that's kind of what I'm looking at. Correct me if I'm wrong. We're bringing in 14 million and we're spending 10.5. That leaves us $3.5 million, and every year we're going to put, at this point, 1.2 million under the original one. The way Chris is suggesting it is 720,000 out of that money we'll put towards. That's one asset that we're saving for. So that's a lot of money, and that's why I agree that, you know, if we push it out to 18 years, we do 80% of the funding. It's a lot easier to build to swallow for us, the people that have saved money so far, you know, to get us to this point, like the people of Tumbler Ridge and the businesses and everything that paid the taxes that have saved that $25 million or whatever we've got in the bank now. It doesn't seem quite fair for us to have to dish out all that money for the people of the future 20 years down the road, right? So I like the idea of extending the life of it a little more, the 80%, so that it's not that much money coming out, because that's quite a bit. Right?
Yep, and like you said, it's only one asset too. We haven't included the buildings or waterworks or anything. So.
Right.
But back in budget discussions too, when we were saying that we had a $1.2 million surplus, we weren't including our depreciation either of 2.4 million. So our surplus really wasn't a surplus if we had started including our depreciation, right? So, because our depreciation number wasn't added as a line item. It was just on our budget, so.
And what we put aside right now, sorry, to
Go
jump in
ahead.
there, we put aside the pickup trucks, right, or light vehicle policy, so that's in place. That's coming to the budget every year, and now we're going to do the asphalt. So really, the question is do we want to do $1.2 million a year, or do we want to do $750,000? Right? To me, I don't want to do 1.2 million at this point. If we live into this thing, maybe, but.
Yep. Well, and like this is a policy too, so I mean, later on down the road we can bring it up for any changes or more discussions as well. Any other comments? Councillor Lehman?
Thank you, Mayor Vernon. I'm just a little worried about the extra 3 years on the asphalt, because if it gets to be, say, a lot of these roads don't survive the 18 years, and at 15 they're bad, I'd be a little happier going with the 15, and if it lasts to 18, perfect. If it doesn't, we're still covered. 15 years is a long time for us when you look at some of this asphalt. I don't know. I'm not too sure about the 18 years.
Councillor Majinski?
Thank you, Mayor Bertrand. That's exactly my concern too, was the 18 years. It seems pretty long and pretty far-fetched for this area. If we were to do 80% on the 15 years, that's 960,000, so it's still quite a bit of a drop. And right now, even with our public works vehicles, that's 300,000 a year that we are putting away for that as well. So we'd still be at like 1.2 with those two combined. So I think that's fairly reasonable. And then,
Yeah, I mean, it's going to come down to harder decisions come budget time, obviously, and probably capital projects are going to decrease, but to ensure the future viability, financial viability of this community, we need to start saving for our infrastructure. Councillor Howe?
I thought the paving infrastructure was actually supposed to last more than 15 years, and the paving report that I had, it said 20 years is what asphalt was supposed to get. I don't know where 15 came from. But again, my concern runs on, if we do it for 15 years and the road falls apart and we had depreciated for 18, we're 65% of the way there, 75% for complete replacement. The council of the day may choose to say, you know what, we're gonna mill it down and we're just gonna top coat it, right? We're talking about complete replacement. That's a decision that this council and the council before decided we're done with doing the patches and the milling down. We want to try new asphalt in Tumbler Ridge and see if we get more life and longevity out of it. So there are other options here for the council of the day. If they choose to at that time that they don't have the money or things have changed, or maybe they're flush with cash and they want to do it because we've got 65% of the money saved for them. Remember when we did the asphalt replacement, we had zero of the money saved for us. We just had a reserve fund and we outlaid, what was it, $7 million in the last 2 years? $5 million in the last 2 years? So, you know, we had to do that, and I didn't hear any or too many taxpayers come and say, hey, that was a bad move, or I don't like that. You know, we never changed anybody's taxes. Nothing went up, nothing went down. We had it in reserve fund, but this is just designating it. So I have no concern with going to 18 years. I like the fact that we're not, the people of the day aren't taking the entire hit for the people of the future. That's why.
Sure. Councilor Majinski.
Thank you, Mayor Burchett. We did take a hit though by fronting that money up with that, because nobody in the past saved that for us. So we actually had to, we're playing catch up now. And we could always do this 1.2 or 960 or 740, and we can change that down the road, but as long as something's in place, we can go ahead. And that also doesn't include our storm sewer drains, our curbs, our sidewalks, all that stuff too. So asphalt's one thing, but then you got to think about everything else that's going to be very costly as well down the road.
Sure.
That could be a 15-year term for concrete, right? So I don't know.
Okay. Any other comments? Okay. Call the question on the alternative recommendation. I'll just read it again here. That the amount of funds to be saved for each road be reduced to 80% of the total value, and that the amortization length be changed from 15 to 18 years. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. So I'll make a motion to approve the amended asphalt replacement reserve policy, PW 15. Seconder, Councillor Kirby. Any other discussion? Okay, all in favor? Carried, thank you. 8.3, patron seating for ice rink. A report from the Director of Community Services and Facilities dated September 3rd, 2019 on patron seating for the ice rink. Recommendation, please. Okay, I'll move that council approves $42,000 in unbudgeted funds to install 100 bleacher seats that meet the patron comfort and local building code requirements, and that pilot type seating be removed and benches repaired. Seconder? Councillor Norbury, open for comment or discussion. Councillor Norbury?
So I'm not in agreement with this recommendation. I do want to have a high level of comfort for our residents that are sitting in hockey, but I think when you look at $420 per chair, I think that cost is too much per unit.
Okay. Councillor Howe?
I too am not in favor of this current recommendation, and the reason being is another floor mounted seat has been identified and a sample is being requested. So I would like us to see the other sample for comparison of pricing, style, fit, everything else before we jump and make a hasty decision on this type of an investment. I would also, even when we do choose the chairs, I would not like to see us do 100 of them. I would like to see us to do one small section either in section B or section D, or a small section in both, like one row of seating, so if that's 12 in each section to start with. One point that's came to me in these discussions is that I didn't think about is that these are also a great way to get seniors more comfortable when they come out to hockey or figure skating, or to come watch the grandkids or whatever, public skating, what be it. So I think that's an option to look at as well, right? And again, I'm not comfortable with 42,000 at this point with something I don't like to see. I would like to see the ones that are there removed and those benches fixed. I think those are absolutely terrible. But again, I don't want to go and do the work to pull those out, repair the benches, if we're just going to go and wreck them again by putting in new seating. So I would like to see us push this off until we see the options of the additional seating that could be coming in.
Okay, Mr. Waller, is there a price difference on the other option?
So the budget that we have here is for the other option. Administration believes that the new option coming in would be our preferred installation method, as long as it's received well by the people who use them. So we test them out in the same way as we did before. So that's what the $42,000 is there for. This is really to come to council, given the cost of these seats, to find out, you know, these seats are a little more expensive, and that's for the 42,000. Even the other ones are pretty close to this. We want to know if council's willing to pay this money for the chairs, and if you are, we'll move forward with the project, and if not, we'll stop. So that's what we need to find out from this process tonight.
Okay. Councilor Majinski?
Thank you, Mayor Bertrand. So the end goal here is to have back support for these seats. Is that the whole purpose, or is there an option just to do padded seating on the benches at a reduced rate? Or do we want cup holders and armrests and all that jazz too?
For me, the comfort is the backrest.
Backrest? Okay.
Yeah. I know when I go up there to sit, I usually go to the very top just so we can use the concrete backing as a backrest for myself. But the benches are pretty darn hard as well. But caught myself on that one. Councillor Kirby.
Thank you. I'm having a hard time with the costs of these chairs, and I'm wondering if we'd get all of our information gathered, if we couldn't go out for sponsorship for these. Looking at other alternatives other than the district just putting them in. Because I'm just gonna say Kanuma says, I like this idea. I wanna put seating into the rink, and they all have their names on it, etc. I think we should look at it a little bit closer, and because I think this is a big cost. I think it's a big cost over the years with cleaning and maintenance and everything else, and it's going to be different. People are going to have to get up now to move, through. I think we could look at different options here, but I do like the idea of looking at this other chair first before we go anywhere.
Okay, Councillor Norbury.
And I think that this other chair is so comparable in value. Like, that's what the motion here is for, is to this new option. Still looking at $420 a chair. Now, I guess my question to users of the arena is that what's the comfort level of those red chairs too? Like, I've heard mixed results. Like, half people use them, half don't. I believe that they're a $75 chair.
They're not very comfortable.
Terrible.
The first week they were in, a group of people told me that they didn't want to sit in them because they didn't fit in them. Councillor Norbury.
Sorry for my my laugh there, because I'm trying to wrestle with, okay, what sort of budget we need to set at this, right? $75 is a garbage chair. It's a waste for money. I still think 420 is too high. Maybe there's more options out there in the middle that we can look at.
But also a $75 chair included installation of 6 screws, whereas the $420 chair includes railing, floor joists or whatever. Like, it's a much more complete installation than just the red option that we have at the moment. Yeah, I'm in support of the 42,000, to be honest with you. I think this is a huge improvement to our arena, and moving towards hosting hockey camps and hosting possible junior games. I think we should provide the most comfort for our arena users as we can. $420 a seat for an actual seat, yeah, it's an expensive seat, but when you look at the installation of it and the railings and everything, it's I think it's on par. Councillor Howe.
My concern with the 42,000 is if we don't like them, right? So if they're similar to the other ones that we put in and people hate them, it's a $42,000 spend. That's why I'd rather see us do a section, like do 12 over here, 12 over here, get corporate sponsorship, great idea, get them to do it. And if we like them and they're positive review, then go ahead and spend some more money on them. And that to me is, you know, that's a quarter of the cost if we did 12 and 12. You know, maybe that's more palatable for a mistake. You know, you make a $10,000 mistake as compared to a $42,000 mistake. Right?
Sure.
So,
Mr. Wall, is that price per chair, is that dependent on buying 100 of them, or would the cost go up if we were to only buy 20?
On the quote sheet, that's what it was. There were volume discounts once you got higher. We'd have to check and see if there's going to be a minimum order to come in. In our conversation so far, there hasn't been so much a minimum order as you're going to have to pay more for shipping. That's where the extra cost is going to come in.
Okay. Any other comment or question? Councilor Majinski?
Thank you, Mayor Bertrand. I'm not in favor of the $420,000 or $420 per chair, just for the amount of users that it is. I know it's popular hockey and figure skating, but it's one user group in one area of our community, and $420 is quite a bit if you start throwing that number around to the general public that maybe don't enjoy those activities. It'd be hard to say quantify what we're putting our money towards, right? I know a lot of people are very, very passionate about hockey and figure skating, but some people may not be, and it'd be hard to argue that, right? So I think we should just do our due diligence and continue looking at other options for different seats and styles and sizes.
Okay. Councilor Howell?
I'll remember that conversation when the Mountain Bike Association comes in looking for $170,000 for a single user group as well. But I'd like to put an alternate recommendation forward when we get an opportunity here that we knock the price down to a quarter. We do $10,500, and I think that might be more palatable with council if this gets voted down.
Okay. Any other comment or question? Okay, call to question on the recommendation. All in favor? Opposed? Defeated. Councilor Howell?
I'd like to put an alternate recommendation on that council approves $10,500 in unbudgeted funds to install 24 bleacher seats that meet the patron comfort and local building code recommendation requirements, and we search for corporate sponsorship for them, and they be installed in the top sections of B and D.
Okay, seconder. Councilor Lehman? Any other comments? To Kirby?
Thank you, Your Worship. At this point, we still haven't looked at the chairs yet.
That's correct.
So I'm gonna vote against this yet till we see them. And I think the right move is to defer this point.
Okay. Councilor Norbury?
And I think at that point, I do like the idea of looking for sponsorship, but if we don't get sponsorship, we'd be still on the hook for, rather than still looking at $400 plus per chair. That's my issue.
Okay, Councilor Howell?
And this is just to give staff a budgeted amount to work with. You're correct. We should see the other chair, decide which example is right, but it gives them something to work with that they know that we're comfortable with spending up to $10,500 to do 24 seats. That's what Mr. Wall said he was looking for tonight, was what are you comfortable with. I agree that we're not going to necessarily go with this seating selection he's given us. It's going to be decided between the two.
Okay. Any other comments? Okay, call to question on the motion. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Okay. 4. Infrastructure investment costs for the Saddle Club Rural Residential Property. A report from the Director of Economic Development and Tourism dated September 3rd, 2019, to present research into anticipated development costs for Crown Property PCL E Plan 31305, to provide council with an indication of how much the proposed 5-acre lots will need to be sold for in order to cover costs. Before we get to the recommendation, I just want to clarify that this property does not include the Saddle Club property. This is separate. Just to squash any rumors there. Recommendation, please. Councillor Howell.
I'd like to put a recommendation on the floor that the purchase of the Saddle Club rural residential property continue.
Seconder. Councillor Kirby. Any comments? Councillor Lehman.
Thank you, Mayor Bertrand. I'm just looking at the cost recovery of this, and I mean, you're looking at a half-acre lot, around a half-acre lot, and that's $70,000. That's before you do anything. And if you want a 5-acre lot, you're looking at way more than that. I don't know if anybody's going to be willing to spend that kind of money to buy any property around here anywhere. So I'm just, I can't see anybody spending that kind of money and getting anybody to develop it.
Councillor Norbury.
So I'm in favor of continuing with the Saddle Club residential property purchase, not the development work. I would be more in favor, and I believe that this is Councillor Howe's motion is just to continue with the residential property purchase. There's no discussion there about the infrastructure.
Go ahead.
To continue along that line, because I think at this point, looking at all of the quotes and the massive amount of work that, well, I don't know if it's massive, the large amount of work that staff put into preparing this report and showing us the true incredible cost of infrastructure in this area, I think that needs to be taken as an individual basis or a private contract or what have you, because going down this avenue for infrastructure and servicing these lots would take the price point way outside of anybody's willingness, as cited in our rural residential lot survey.
Mm-hmm.
So I would be in favor of continuing with the residential lot, the land purchase, as long as we're not turning ourselves into a development company.
Yeah, so as far as I understand, the land purchase is still in process. We're expecting a decision here any time. So the recommendation on this report was for information. If we had passed that for information, staff has been directed by council previously to continue this process to buy and develop these rural residential lots. So yeah, just for information there. I agree with the council. It is a significant cost. But you're also getting 5 acres of land for $200,000. It's I think it's a reasonable cost, to be honest with you. I mean, maybe not in Tumbler Ridge. Maybe we haven't seen that land price ever, but we've never also offered 5 acre lots before. So I wouldn't be too overly concerned with the cost recovery or the price of it. We're still in the early stages. I think it was a very good decision by previous council to go ahead with this purchase. Decisions need to be made in the future. Councillor Howe?
So the reason I went with just to continue it is because I want council to have the opportunity every step along the way that if they're not comfortable with something, we discuss it, figure out where we want to go with it, and make sure that staff has clear and constant direction, that this is the direction we want to go. I agree with what Councillor Lehman is saying. That price is exorbitantly high. I don't think that it should be that high. I just drove the road that's out there right now. I do not understand how we can get a cost estimate to build a road of this type of magnitude that actually says that we need to take the existing road to the Saddle Club that's been there for 35 years and it's no longer good enough and it needs to be revamped so that we can get into this. To me,
Wider, I think.
Sorry?
Wider, I think.
I don't see why, but 2 vehicles can pass. I actually drove that trail today. I have a 1-ton truck and I passed a diesel 1-ton truck on the back trail that was created by the community forest when they logged the area out. This is what the essence of these lots are. They are rural residential. They don't need to be made to be a paved road or a base on it to a paved road. To me, there's a lot of, this is an excellent price. Could you imagine getting 5 acres of land for $15,000? I wouldn't care about the access to the land, I would figure it out. But to me, this is an opportunity, it's right there, the road is there, it touches every lot that's in there. The bigger concern to me is how do we do fire protection in there? That was what my biggest concern would be, is how do we do that? It doesn't have to have water to it, and it doesn't have to have sewer on it, because it's 5 acres or greater. You can do septic and sewer, there are septic fields, right? So the opportunity for us to get this land for a good price, if that's the number that comes in, it could be less, could be more, but it's somewhere in that neighborhood. And like you were saying, to get a lot, I paid $70,000 for the 2 lots next door, $77,000 with taxes, I think it was, for the 2 lots that were next door to my house in Tumbler. Yes, they're service lots, but they're small, because I wanted land. People that want land will not have any hesitation, in my mind, to pay $100,000 for these lots. These are $15,000 for 5 acre lots before you put any service. The power is right to the edge of the first piece of property out there, right there. And the roads to the Saddle Club were not made to this standard. The road to the golf course is not made to this standard. The road to the dump, maybe, but I doubt it. You know, the road in the flatbed campground is not made to this standard. The road that hauled logs out of that road is still there and existing and had logging trucks on it. We don't need to build it to that style. This is rural living. These folks are expecting to be able to take their horses in there and have pigs and whatever. And I think that we just continue the process. Another option that I've heard is a small community in Newfoundland. I don't know if it can be done here, but they came together as a group and they decided what they wanted to do. Each lot was purchased in this area, and they decided they wanted to put this type of services into every lot and this type of road in. And because it's not the district of Tumbler Ridge who has to go out for all these competitive bid processes and the way everything has to be placed, and you got to basically put your number that you're going to pay, and they come in and say, yeah, we'll do it for that price. It costs us a lot of money for us to do this type of development. Look at these engineering companies come in with these numbers. You know, I mean, to me, you know, did we bother contacting 3 local contractors and say, what would it cost for you guys to put a road in here or upgrade the road that's here? To me, don't get hung up on the cost of that road. I don't, you know, unless there's some requirement. I thought that we can change, or we are trying to change the, not the building codes, the bylaws for rural residential so that it can be built to a certain standard. It doesn't have to be the same standard of the roads in Tumbler Ridge. If you're to do a development in 100-acre woods, it has to be paved, it has to have a sidewalk, it has to have street lights, power lines have to be underground. That is part of that. What's that? The subdivision bylaw. Sorry. Out there, it doesn't have to be like that. So to me, don't get
Yeah,
by the cost of this road.
I agree with you. That price is definitely not set in stone, and it can be varied for sure. Councillor Norbury?
Yeah, so what Council Howell's making a lot of sense, and I think that's why we should, I think our motion should be amended to add in the district to undertake no development work, and instead place the property for sale, and place the property for sale. As you know, I think like when we did that survey, the price point for 5 acre lots unserviced was $40,000. We can put that on the purchasers of the land to sort of work it out, how they come together as a coalition. You know, one guy can go out, blaze the trail, and then moving forward, subsequent purchasers of lots out there would have to pay him, you know, a percentage of his cost for that road. Because if we start undertaking the building of this road, we need to be responsible for it, and we need to bring it up to a high level of service, because it comes down to liability, in my opinion, in that if we build a road and we don't have it to a certain standard, any incidences on that road we become liable for. Whereas I think we should be putting it on the purchasers of that land, because I think at the price point we can offer is exceptional, and moving to servicing and gaining access should be on the purchasers.
Okay. Councillor Lehman?
Thank you, Richard. I have nothing against, I think we should continue on purchasing this land, but I think country residential to me is, you have a road, you may run a power line down that thing, that's it. Anything else, whoever buys that property is responsible. I can see putting in power along the road so that that's the only thing that they have. But along the road, anything into their property, that whoever buys it is responsible for that. As long as you can recover the cost of running that power line down that road. You gotta be able to recover what you put in, so that you're not losing anything.
Councillor Howell?
Yeah, so the reason I didn't put that second part of the recommendation in there, Councilor Norbury, is that if we decide at a later point that that's what we want to do, we could. I think that we just make sure that there's clear direction. We want to move forward with this land and figure out what we want to do. Even if we own the land and we come out with, yeah, as a district, we don't want to develop it, then at that time we could say, yeah, we found there's no way we can build the road cheaper, there's no way we can get in here, but we're going to sell it as one lump sum, and you know, we could choose to do that at that time. I don't want to paint us into that corner at this point yet, because there may be some opportunities here to do the sharing thing like you talked about.
Yeah, I think this is going to come to us again for many decisions, but and at that time we can definitely consider selling or developing. Councilor Majinski?
Thank you, Mayor Bertrand. We've already applied for land to the province already, so we're going to do it again. What if we use this as a business opportunity for TLE, for them to open up these? They buy the land, they're responsible for it.
It's possible.
Just another option out there, like.
It wouldn't be,
'Cause this-
it would be fee for simple, I think they call it. Fee simple.
This is more of a developer's thing, not ours. Like, we buy the land, but they're gonna have to purchase the land back from us if they're willing to develop it. So, are they willing to do that?
Yeah, it's hard to say.
They'll say, well, why didn't you guys put it in a road? Why don't you guys do it? And then we're gonna be responsible for the ditching. What if those ditches get the culverts plugged up? Who's responsible? Us? Just because we put the road in instead of just a power line? I don't think so. I think everything will be on our liability. So.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Call to question on the motion: purchase of the Saddle Club residential property to continue. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Okay, moving on to 8.5, schedule of meetings. Everybody had a chance to look at the schedule. Any issues or changes, council? Okay. Yes, Mr. Wall.
We should talk about what you guys want to say next Lex talk meeting.
Yes. Let's talk. Any flavor for council beginning of October? So this will be our second one of the year. I think we're planning to hold two. Might be a good opportunity after UBCM to fill in the public about our meetings with the ministers and ministries.
Good night.
October 9th.
TRMBA coming up
Ah,
at
yes.
8 a.m.
Wednesday seems like a good evening of the week. How about October 2nd? Councilor Kirby?
Thank you, Mayor Bertrand. If mayor and the councillors going to the tourism conference, that's the 3rd, 4th, so.
That's right. Councilor Norbury?
16th?
October 16th? Sure. Like it. October 16th? Any conflicts that you could think of?
Do something.
Okay, October 16th, subject to change.
As long as there's wings.
Okay, so AGM.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Wall. Notice of motions. 9.1, Health Week in Tumbler Ridge. Councilor Norbury brought forward the following notice of motion at the August 12th, 2019 council meeting. Councilor Norbury.
As per the recommendation from the Building Healthy Communities Committee, that the District of Tumbler Ridge supports an annual Health Week in Tumbler Ridge.
Seconded. Councilor Lehman. Any discussion? Councilor.
I can just bring a little explanation to we're currently not looking to be added into the yearly policy that supports these events, as we're still in a transition year, but we're just hoping that moving forward we can have support from council, that the Building Healthy Communities Committee can create the event.
No, I think it's a great initiative, and it was very well received by our medical center and staff as well. So, no, it's a great initiative there. Any other comment? Okay, call to question. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. 9.2, Community Forest. Councillor Howell brought forward the following notice of motion at the August 12th, 2019 council meeting. Councillor Howell.
That all grant and community support monies recommended by the community forest be reviewed by staff and council prior to being released, and to ensure that any money being given out is in line with the wishes of the elected council and has been reviewed by staff to ensure that any projects or grants are in line with what is currently going on within the district of Tumbler Ridge.
Seconder. Councillor Majinski. Open for discussion. Councillor Norbury.
I'll start by speaking that I'm against this current motion. And the reason why is that I believe we are trying to fix something that isn't broken. If we pass this motion, first I think we're going to have to get lawyers involved. We're going to have to get a lot of very specialized lawyers involved, because this has never happened. Because community forests have operated in the way that our community forest is currently operating, which is actually operating at a very high level, as our community forest was second to only one community forest in the BC for how well it's being operated and how well it's being run. Now, my concern is that we're first going to have to find out, is this legally binding? How does the district actually engage with the community forest as a shareholder, as councillors, as a council? So my concern is, how much is this going to be? This is going to be a large amount of money for our lawyers, which are hundreds of dollars per hour, to fix something again that is an organization that is, they have a policy in place, they have a grant form to vet bad applications. Like we have our policies in place, as well as we're going into, again, trying to micromanage a board, which I'd like to repeat, is in terms of community forests operating at a very high level. And I think moving forward, I understand the concerns for a community, an industry having money that wants to be, that puts it into the community. But I think we're trying to fix something that isn't broken. Trying to micromanage.
Okay. Yeah, I'll speak to this as well. I'm not in favor of this motion. I'm questioning the legality of it as far as corporate structure goes. Also, reading this notice of motion, it seems to me that this motion is really highlighting the job or the responsibility of the council liaison at the time for the community forest. If there is an organization that comes to council and is denied grant and aid application, but then goes to the community forest and applies for the same grant and aid, it's really up to the council liaison at the time to bring that forward as the will of council to the community forest board, and that's why we hold and have a council liaison on that board. Yeah, I definitely question the legality of it as far as corporate structure goes, and I think if we are to pass this, we would definitely need to get legal support. Councillor Lehman and Councillor Howe?
Yeah, I don't like, I mean, these people are appointed, and I think they're there to do a job. And I think just, they may approve a request for funding that council is denied. But I think everybody is going to have a different opinion. So, I mean, I don't think it's a good idea for us to question what they're doing. I just think they're there to do a job, let them do it. And then, I mean, if there's questions, we do have the liaison that we can voice our concerns with and see if we can get that fixed.
And that's really our channel to try and influence or give our opinions to that board is through our liaison, not only with the community forest, but also with any board that we have a liaison on. Councillor Howell?
So, I'm not saying that they're doing a bad job. It's quite the contrary. I think they're doing a fantastic job. They're giving out a lot of money. And to me, it's just, we are the sole shareholder of the community forest. So that the money that they give out should be in line with what us as the sole shareholder has in mind. So I don't see the problem with them coming in and say, hey, we've got these 10 great initiatives that we want to give money to. Here's what we're doing. We vetted them. Everything looks good. And then we look at it, we say, yeah, approved. Everything is in line. The concern comes for me, and it's already been highlighted in council, and it has happened, is that they go off in one direction, we're going off in another direction, and we end up wasting tax dollars, taxpayers' money, because they're improving a trail in an area that we're planning on developing. That is the concern here. That was missed by the liaison. People make mistakes. I don't know if Chris was the liaison at the time or who was, but this is just an opportunity to see, okay, what are you doing? This is where we're giving out the money. Because, you know, as a sole shareholder, we could also make the decision to say, no, you stop giving the money out. You know, we want to talk to the board of directors at the annual general meeting and say, stop giving the money out because we want to put it into a pellet mill, or we want to put the money to a whatever, something different. But there's no desire to micromanage or do that. It's just wherever the money is going out, the people should be able to see that, and we, as the elected representatives, should have some input into that, just so that they don't go off in one direction and we go off in another. You know, and to me, it's not trying to micromanage. It's not trying to do all the lawyers involved. That's the heights of absolute BS. And that is not us saying that we are going to get lawyers involved. That was the community forest saying they would like to get lawyers involved. And as the sole shareholder of a corporation that says they're going to get lawyers involved against us, that's ridiculous.
Because the shareholders don't have that kind of decision making in any corporation.
Correct.
So how can we say that we want that without getting legal advice?
I guess get legal advice then.
We have to.
You don't have to get legal advice. You're asking them, here's the grant money. This is what we're putting out. Here's the 10 things you're doing. We look at it. None of that is in line. Hey, how about all the stuff that's enclosed that we know about that they don't know about? If the council liaison is not there for that, we can't tell them about that. But we can have Mr. Wall go and say, hey, this project that you're thinking about doing, we can't approve that one. There's a reason why. We can't tell you what it is. We know that. We can't disclose that. The council liaison can't disclose that. It's for opportunities like that, and it happened already, twice.
But really, to bring the community forest aspirations in line with the Council of the Days initiatives is the liaison's job and responsibility to do that on their board. The corporate structure, when they have a board of directors, the shareholders don't infiltrate that board. We can have a bit of influence through our liaison, and that's where the communication needs to continue is through our liaison. But to make a recommendation like this that in my mind is questioning the legality of it, we have to do due diligence to get legal advice before we do something illegal or pass a motion that is actually illegal. I think that's due diligence itself. Councillor Norbury.
There's a couple of points I'd like to address in Councillor Howell's statements. And, a recommendation like this is micromanagement at this point. I understand now that through your concerns, it is not meant to be micromanaging. You want everybody to be working together. And I'm sorry that if I'm trying to put words in your mouth, it's not my intention. I'm just trying to rationalize what I'm hearing, because this motion absolutely is trying to micromanage the ability of the community forest to offer grants, to conduct business, which the community forest has not in any case said we need to get into a legal battle, that we need to, but because of the complexity of our relationship, we have consulted a firm separate from the districts to look at the legalities of this even happening. And that is because at any time we make a step forward in trying to demand something of somebody, we need to look at how this actually will affect them. And that's my concern. But Councillor Howe, you made a point about the community forest making giving grants and donations in areas that are not in line with the district. I do have a bit of an issue with that, as you know, I was in contact with the previous representative, and one of the issues I believe was the saddle club issue. Now, a member of the community forest, not myself, has provided some information about that whole trail building issue, and there was along the entire way, it was advertised throughout the community. We have a poster that was placed around the community. We have something put in the newspaper in 2016. Now, and as well as information, as well as a open invitation to council to come and talk about these issues that council at the time may have had moving forward. So I think that by saying the community force is going against council wishes, I don't think is very accurate. And I think that maybe there's misinformation being represented, that the community forest has gone outside of council's directives. Speaking with the community forest in terms of initiatives that have been brought forward to council that have been shot down, the concerns that essentially you're going, mommy says no and you're going to daddy, is a little misunderstood in that those issues that have been brought up, those grants that have been asked, have not been approved because of council's wishes not to. And I fully agree that is the role of the liaison to inform the community forest that this is not in line with council's wishes. I'd like to highlight the museum. At the time, the museum came to the community forest asking for funding, and at that point it was brought up. This is something the council is not really supporting at this time. So we are a subsidiary of the district, we should not be continuing along that line. I think that's a good example of where the liaison and the community forest relationship is.
Okay, thank you. Any other comment? Councillor Kirby?
Thank you, Mayor Bertrand. I think our community force is doing great work, and you know, all the volunteers that we appointed as elected officials to sit on that board are doing good. I mean, there might be a small percentage of monies given out that council might not be on board with, and those are sometimes when you're looking at individual projects or something that is supporting business. So we need a place where those groups can go. So I think this can be solved through better communication, absolutely, with with our liaison. Maybe just a part of their grant, when they're applying for grants, is a section saying, has this been to council? Have you asked council for money? Why were you turned down? So that then at least the community force, we can't all know exactly who's doing what, but the community force knows that they have come to council, the reason why council didn't accept that, and I think just that's the step to go. Is we've got a great organization here. It's a great asset for the community. That money is being put back into the community in great projects, and I think it's an easy solution. It's just better communication.
I agree. Yep. Councillor Howe?
And again, I don't wish this to come across as this is me against the community forest. It is not that. I think the community forest does a great job. There's great people on that board that are volunteering their time that I'm fully aware of. It's just so that they have that conversation with Mr. Wall, that it is in there, that we know about something that may not be in interest. Maybe it will never happen. Maybe this is a total waste of a recommendation. But when it does, we're going to wish that we had some influence. And this is our opportunity to have some influence in it. And it's not like they're going to bring in 10 recommendations and we're going to cut 7 of them and go with 3. If they all in line and we have no good reason to say why they can't do something, you still get to vote on all that as well. I don't know. Just an opportunity.
Okay. Any other comment? Okay, call the question on the motion. All in favor? Opposed? Defeated. Okay, moving on to 10, councillors' business. Councillors, Councillor Norbury, Krakalka, and Kirby, thank you for your reports. Any other councillors' business? Councillor Kirby?
Thank you, Mayor Bertrand. I was wondering if we could put Dr. Cheng's temporary permit onto an upcoming PMP?
Sure we can. Mr. Wall? Yep. Okay. Any other? Councillor Howe?
Now, I just wanted to, I normally don't take much time to do this in councillor's business, but I just wanted to point out that I attended the hockey school. One of my children were in it and was around to watch what the Dawson Creek Junior Canucks put on here in our community. And honestly, I have never been involved in anything in our community that I have seen such positive support from out-of-town people that just absolutely flowed out of the folks from Dawson Creek, Chetwood, Fort St. John that I had met here in Tumbler Ridge. They talked so highly of how they were treated in town. The people visiting Tumbler Ridge said they felt like they were treated like royalty in town. And like when I started talking to these people, it was just, it was fantastic. It was totally awesome to hear the way that they talked about the town. The Dawson Creek Junior Canucks and people from just parents were talking about what the staff at the community center had done and how they had gone above and beyond to make sure that the guys had coffee in their change room. Their own coffee pots, the boys brought in, and girls I should say, and put it in to the change room so the guys had fresh coffee. Like going above, stuff that they're not asked to do. They go above and beyond to provide the experience in the community because they all got on board with this. The staff at the golf course were commended, coming around, giving them wood, and asking them that, you know, you want to book next time. And it was just absolutely fantastic. And I just want to say hats off to everybody involved in the district staff and the community center that put this thing on, because I have had zero complaints on it. I've heard absolutely no negative feedback. It's fantastic to see our community highlighted in that manner.
Absolutely, and it really showed what our hospitality can do, and I want to thank Mr. Pistani for your efforts with the rec center staff, and I really want to thank Mr. Wall for spearheading this initiative. It's fantastic. We've been wanting a camp here in Tumbler for many years, and it finally happened, and it went off without a hitch, and everyone was really happy. So looking forward to seeing some numbers on that, and looking forward to new opportunities as well. They're talking about possibly bringing a junior game to town at the end of the month as well. So really excited for that, and thank you very much to staff. I agree. Councillor Lehman?
Thank you, Mr. President. And on that note as well, the rec center passes and the half-price golf, all that was, I think, a big hit. People really appreciated that, and I like Will said, they thought they were treated like royalty. I think that was a good idea that we did that, because I mean, you know, any money that you bring in is better than nothing, and I mean, even at half price, I think it's nice to see, and I think a lot of those people are going to be coming back. You know, people that would never have been here.
That's right.
Without this camp and the way they were treated, I think is going to bring a lot of them back.
Absolutely.
Which is nice to see.
Absolutely. Councillor Kirby?
Thank you, Mayor Bertrand. Just on the action items, we have Vestas to return area to grass. That's been done. I'm just wondering, we have a hold on looking at festival grounds. Just wondering if we can put that back into PMP2 just to get conversation going on what's the next step on that, because right now staff's on hold.
Yeah, I believe, Mr. Wall, is that slated for the next PNP festival ground discussion?
It wasn't, but it can be.
Yes, please. Okay. And I had a fairly quiet month, but meeting with West Moberly First Nation on August 22nd to discuss TLE and next steps with Councillor Kirby. It was a good meeting. It was much more relaxed than I expected, and it was, I think, showing the relationship that we're starting to build is becoming more comfortable. So it was good discussion there. Any other councillor business? Councillor Norbury?
I would like to bring up the petition we had dropped off at our wickets. Will that be on an upcoming agenda?
Mm-hmm. Yep. Okay, question and answer period. Any question, Trent, in regards to this agenda?
Yeah, I'm kind of curious as to what the relationship with the regional district is in regards to getting construction waste. Is there any rules around that? as far as that, or is it just kind of if you want to do it, do it?
Yeah, I mean, if we want to do it, we're basically on the hook to do it, provide that service at this point. I'm planning on bringing or having discussion with the regional district to see if there's any kind of partnerships. I have to infiltrate their solid waste committee a little bit to get the discussion going there. But yeah, they're just like any other business. If we want to provide more product for them and pay for it, they'll be more than willing to take it. So yeah, that's the relationship at the moment. Okay, no close. So 14.1, adjournment recommendation, please. Second, Councillor Kirby. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you.